Hello and welcome. Hello and welcome to episode 3 of At the Picnics. And before we introduce our first guest, Danny, we have again this week had so much fantastic feedback. People are actually in awe of this show and are saying, "When's the next one? When's the next one? When are you going to put it on online?" Absolutely fantastic. And most of the feedback is about how good you are.
Oh shit, that's something different for me.
Oh, we've got swearing
No, look,
already.
sorry, I'm in a little bit of shock with that. No, look, it's great. Everybody's getting behind it.
Yep.
It seems to be developing a bit of a cult following. So thanks everybody for sharing it and getting on board.
I'm so
Absolutely.
sorry. My dogs are going off.
welcome to live.
Welcome to live TV, live broadcasting, guys, and joined by some puppy dogs as well, and Mel. G'day, Mel.
Okay. Those of you that aren't aware, we've got the lovely Mel McDonald with us, who will introduce her as at last year's Picnic Racing Awards. She won an award for I don't want to say it wrong, up and coming rider. And as you can see this season, she rode a double last week. So congratulations, Mel. She's already lost her claim. So I don't know whether that's a good thing or a bad thing. And already getting heaps of rides this season. So really well recognised. But before we go too far, couple of shout outs we've got to give. It's Benny Spall's birthday today, being Thursday. So happy birthday, Ben. And the reason I'm giving him a happy birthday is he's a massive, massive support of Picnic Racing Circuit. He works for racing.com and also calls a lot of the tracks. So good on you, Benny. I hope you have a good birthday. And you know what, girls? He's a good Richmond man. He's a fantastic Richmond supporter. So we love you, Ben.
We won't hold that against him then.
A couple of well wishes. Firstly, to Di Clover. Di's going through a bit of a rough time at the moment, so our thoughts are with Di. Her mum's in ICU, and her nephew is going through a bout of chemo. So, everyone on the Picnic Racing Circuit, our thoughts are with Di. And poor Annie Goebel, of course, a trainer of Femme Americaine. She broke her arm a couple of weeks ago, and she's trying to race her or train her horses with one arm. And of course, with that, it's hurt the other arm. So poor Annie, we feel for you, but she'll be at Yay on Saturday if you're out there. So go up and say hello to her. Might even be able to sign her cast.
We'll bring the markers along and we'll send her a note.
Do people still do that?
It does happen, especially if you're still in school.
In schools, it still happens. That is correct. Now, coming up this Saturday, we've got our meeting at Yea. We've got a bit of rain earlier in the week, but it looks like it's going to dry out today. It was rated as a soft 7. It's only going to get better than that. And we've got the feature race, the Sister Olive, which was named after a previous Melbourne Cup winner who was trained in the area. And of course, that's over 3,000 metres. So that's a fantastic race for the picnics. Now, bad news. Drilling on Boxing Day has been cancelled, and Healesville on the 7th of January has been cancelled due to track conditions. Healesville is still underwater in some parts of the track, so there's a lot of talk they may even not even get on this season, which would be really sad. Now, with all these cancellations happening, especially the last 2 days, Danny, there's a lot of angst among the picnic circuit people about these cancellations and the effect it's having on horses not getting a run and that. And we know there's reasons why they cancel it, because the tracks are too dangerous to run on. And it's not fair for the horses and the jockeys and everyone else. And a lot of people have said, including myself, have said, oh, well, let's just transfer it to another race. Let's pick another track and race it there. But you're going to tell us why we can't do that.
I've done a little bit of research on it, and I've spoken to Gary Buckley a couple of times now. Now, when we had our transfer to Ballarat, Country Racing got slugged with tens of thousands of dollar bill because there was no crowd. They'd put on food, they'd put on staff, and somebody's got to cover the costs of that. And Country Racing, unfortunately, copped the bill for that. I'm not sure whether Traralgon hefted a bill at them or not, but there wasn't many people come to Traralgon, and they unfortunately didn't have enough time to be able to promote it through their community. Normally their Traralgon Cup meeting and the other meeting that they have are sold out well in advance of race day. Their local rodeo gets a massive turn up too. So probably with the right promoting and enough time to get it out through the community, they would be able to have crowds. Healesville, very unfortunately, after struggling through trying to bootleg us through COVID and having meetings that they weren't able to have crowds, along with Woolamai, Balnarring and a couple of the other places. Those clubs have suffered massive losses through COVID. Last year, we sort of had not a bad season. We were able to have crowds at some and not at others. And by the end of the season, we we're sort of in pretty good swing. But Country Racing and RVL support them partially with partial payments for the prize money, but not all of it. The clubs with their gate turnovers and whatever money they have through the year is the other supplementation that we have to our prize money pool. So whilst everybody says that RVL's got so much money from not running our picnic meetings, it's not always entirely the case. Obviously, there is some sort of a pool somewhere that has our picnic prize money, but that's not entirely the stories. The other thing that happens with these clubs is if you go around and ask any committee of any sporting club, generally speaking, it's not the young ones that are on the committees, especially when you get these picnic racing clubs. As any parent will know, school committees and those sorts of places, they're time consuming, they're hard work, and there's a lot of effort that goes into running these clubs.
And you don't get paid.
No, it's all volunteer based, absolutely. So these people that are on the committees at these clubs, and this includes all the once a year clubs. Ask Reg Manning, I think he's on every committee for the clubs up the hill and has been for, I couldn't tell you how many years, but the best part of probably 10 plus. So none of these guys get paid. They're all volunteers. I would average that the estimate age on these guys are all retirees 60 plus. So by the time one bloke gets a knee replacement, somebody else gets a hip, somebody else's heart's having problems and all the rest of it. There's actually not that many volunteers that are there to mow lawns, check fences, check club rooms, check our jockeys' rooms and all those sorts of things. So it becomes a lot of work gets out of hand really easily. And as for transferring and those sorts of things, there's a lot more that goes on behind these clubs. They're not just picnic clubs. A lot of these clubs are golf courses as well. Balnarring also has a pony club there. They also have a archery club there. So
the market.
Some of them, a lot of them host markets and stuff on Sundays and that sort of thing. So they need those days prior to their events to set up as well. So there's a lot more into it. They put their dates in at basically nearly the season prior to the season's end of this year for next year's dates. And around those dates, they have their functions, their golf pro-ams, their somebody's 60th birthday or whatever that they have at the golf clubs. And, you know, that also impacts on how we're able to reconstruct what's left of our picnic season and try and pick up the pieces of so many abandoned meetings. Mother Nature has wreaked havoc, and it's not just been our picnic clubs. Healesville root system, after having so much water, is going to really struggle to get back on its feet, and they haven't been able to get a lawnmower on it for probably a good 3 or 4 months. So the grass is knee high. And they're not alone in that. There's other clubs that are in the same boat, and, you know, fixing these places up, it's going to take a lot of work. And whilst it's really good for all of us to sit there and go, well, just bloody well transfer it, it's not that easy. And there's a lot of clubs that are going to need a lot of help. I mean, Mildura, Swan Hill, Seymour, and those other clubs that have been flooded, they're looking at not being able to hold a race meeting for 12 months. And we're complaining about our picnic season. And, you know, I mean, even getting horse feed and that later in the year and next year, getting hay, if anyone's been able to cut and get hay in this year, it's going to be a remarkable feat because of the weather that we've had. It's been really hard. And everybody's been savagely impacted, and we are as well. Don't get me wrong. We're all feeling the pinch financially, as well as all of these horses that are ready to run that we can't get runs with at the pros because our ratings are too low. So it's a really tricky time. Nobody really knows what the best way forward is, but there's certainly plenty of brains trust as such that are trying to work on it.
Very, very, very well said, Danny. Well done. And people will also forget that, you know, you jockeys, if there's no meeting on, Mel and Danny, that's income you lose. You know, you get paid per ride, and that's sort of income that you rely on this time of the year. You know, you plan to make that money. And the real worrying thought is, and I said this to you on the phone the other day, Danny, that this would be the most craziest thing ever, but to think that if we can't feed our own horses in Australia, for the first time ever, are we going to have to import hay?
Be seen next year, I suppose. We'll find it out. We'll probably find out more about it with the cattle industry and that first, because buying in production feed and that sort of thing for the large lots and that sort of stuff. But I'm sure we'll hear about it. And I know of people that have already gone hunting for new bouts of lucerne and stuff to get it in stock now before the prices go through the roof, and they're buying in bulk and stockpiling because it is going to go through the roof. It's not if or when, it's just how high.
You're right. So when we do get better weather and that, and people are going to think, oh, it's all getting better, the impact's going to last for a very, very long time. Well done, Danny. Now, Mel, hello. Welcome. There's a few things we want to talk about with you. Now, firstly, I call Danny the queen of the picnics because she is. And of course, you call Rebecca Waybouth mum, don't you, Danny?
Deb, yeah. Deb's mum.
I'm sorry, I always get her mixed up with her daughter, Deb. Now,
I'm sure Beck will be rapt to hear that. Beck, you haven't aged that much.
Sorry,
don't
Beck.
worry.
I'm sorry, Beck.
I know Deb looks good for her age, but Deb, you're asking for it, mate.
Beck can be the auntie. How's that?
Yeah.
And I call the sister, and I call Mel the princess. And I don't think Mel likes it very much, but it's fitting. So, thank you for joining us, Mel. Now, my first question.
I'm so sorry, my dogs are barking.
This is great YouTube moment. Mel, my first question is, how did you get involved with horse racing, and how the bleeding hell did you end up here in Victoria, being born and raised in South Australia?
Well, I was actually born in Victoria. I was born in Hamilton, but we moved to South Australia when I was only 4 years old. So I spent the majority of my life there. My great-grandfather was actually a trainer way back in the very, very early 1900s. So obviously I never got to meet him. But I don't know, I just always had a kind of an affinity with horses, and when I was about 15 years old, we lived 5 minutes from Morpheville Racecourse. So when I was about 15 years old and I was, starting to look for a part-time job, Mum took me down to meet Leon McDonald and got me a stable hand job there, a couple of afternoons a week after school and some Sunday work, and kind of went from there.
Hey, Mel, had you been riding horses prior to you going down to Leon's?
Oh, like ponies and stuff. I actually, funny enough, got taught to ride by Will Clarken's dad. He had a riding school when I was about 12 years old. So he basically threw me on some paint pony in the round yard bareback and said, canter it and stay on. And that was my way of learning how to balance myself and ride. So kind of went from there.
When you moved here to Victoria, did you come to this area first, the Cranbourne area, or did you go elsewhere?
No, I moved to Warrnambool originally. My auntie and my cousin actually used to work for Darren Weir. I think she's currently with Maddie Raymond. They live in Warrnambool, so I figured that was probably the best move to start with, going somewhere where I had family and some people that I knew. Unfortunately, with my goals that I had in mind, Warrnambool wasn't really the right spot for me to be, so I stuck it out for about 6 months, and then got in contact with Casey Keys. They were looking for a track rider at the time, and made my way to Cranbourne.
Fantastic. And you're a rider who, and I know you won't mind me saying this, who struggles with her weight because you're quite tall, and you tell me what you eat and literally what you don't eat.
Yeah.
How do you cope with that during the week?
Oh, look, I try and keep my diet fairly healthy, but not too restricted up until about kind of Wednesday, and from Thursday, Friday onwards, I really cut back. Fridays, a lot of the time, I will eat pretty much nothing. Maybe a barley sugar or a Freddo Frog to give me that little bit of a sugar energy hit. But other than that, yeah, I don't eat a lot. It's hard, but I think the withholding of the water is harder, because obviously I've got to drop water weight. So any fluids that you intake it's straight away, that's just weight on. So that's a hard part about it. Yeah.
It must be so hard because you're hungry and you want to eat and you want to get the energy but you do it because you're so passionate about what you do. I mean, otherwise you wouldn't do it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, being a jockey has been something that I've wanted to do since I was, basically since I first started working in racing. But as you said, I'm not tall, but I'm not short as far as jockeys go. I'm 5'7", and unfortunately, I'm a heavy build. My dad was a solid man. He, not fat by any means, but just big boned, heavy muscle, and unfortunately, I've inherited that. My mum's side of the family is also not short. I don't think there's any men on mum's side of the family that are under 6 foot. So, genetics are against me.
Whereas Danny's 4'4". We've had it again. Apologies, everyone. We've had.
Sorry, guys. I'm writing in the diary as well, and it's just brain blank.
All right. Sorry, Danny.
Bugger off, Paul. I made it to 5 foot.
No. But one good thing about that, Melly, is that you can say that you're strong. Some of these smaller jockeys don't have, some of these that can ride 49.50, they're not strong and they don't have good arm strength, where we can say that you do.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, strength is a big part of it to a degree.
On the day too.
Sorry?
A lot can be said for adrenaline on the day too. You would have found that when you were wasting, like, well, you can walk back and sit in the room and go, geez, I feel poor. But you get out there and your job takes over. There's a certain element of, yep, this is what I do, this is how I do it. And yeah, it does. It takes over a bit too.
Yeah, absolutely. And I also think that technique plays a rather large part in it, more so than strength. Yeah. I'd say the biggest advantage for me on the picnic circuit is the fact that when it comes to the top weights, I don't have to carry a huge amount of dead weight, no lead in my lead bags or saddles or anything like that, so the horses sort of don't have to lump such a huge amount of dead weight on their backs.
That's a good point. What's in my mind, Danny, you probably would know the answer to this. What's the biggest weight you've ever seen on a horse at the picnics?
Howling Wolf, Sean Cooper, he rode him as well. I rode him, Courtney Pace rode him. So he went round for pretty much 3 consistent seasons. Courtney, I think she carried about 70 on him. And then I got on him for a season and he raced up to about 74 kilos. And then Sean, you'll have to check with him on this one, but he may have had a bit of a claim left when he started riding him, or he may have just outridden his claim, but Sean rode him up until he has the current weight carrying record, and I think he ended up with 65.
Wow. Okay.
Sorry, 75.
75. Yeah. Got to say.
Yeah.
Wasn't it? I thought it was 78, Danny.
I think he won with 76. But I'd have to check. I'll ask Caroline. She trained him, and Gary Hanlon, his owner, of course, he was the Hanlon family, and he used to howl like a wolf when he got up on the stage to collect his trophy and his bottle of wine. Absolute card. He was a ripping fella. Knew a hell of a lot of good stories and yarns about horse racing. Let me tell you.
Do you think there could ever be a time where a picnic racing horse could carry 90 or 95?
No, I don't think so.
And
No.
I'm out of it then. I don't get a ride.
Absolutely not, mate. Look, Howling Wolf he ran third at Moonee Valley one night. And to be honest, he was a beautiful horse to ride. He was had a magnificently huge stride and that on him. Got round Alexander like you wouldn't believe for a horse that covered the ground. He did. He railed like a greyhound. He was unbelievable. Beautiful temperament and tough. And he could come from behind or run in front. I don't think anything will beat his weight carrying record. He was probably the best picnic horse I've seen on circuit. He won a truckload of races. The difference with him is it didn't matter whether he carried 77 or whether he carried 57. He ran at exactly the same pace. So he wasn't a champion at the pros, but he could run those times at the picnics, on the tight tracks, uphill, down dale, anything. He was unbelievable. He was a great old horse.
Sounds fantastic. All right. Have you got any other questions for Mel, Danny, before we give her the pressure 12 out of 12? Or 12 in 12?
What's been your trickiest racetrack so far, Mel?
Oh. I'd have to say I struggled a bit with Dedarang, actually. Yep. Had my first ride on Dedarang last season, and the downhill back straight sort of got me a little bit, especially when Testa Boom got tugging on me in the cup. Had me taking off down the hill, but I'd say that, or no, that's probably the one I've struggled with the most so far.
What was your favourite win? Were you outrode your claim or your first one?
Oh, look, they were both awesome. Really good feeling.
The Corinthian.
Oh, look, you can't beat the Corinthian. That was just a whole nother level, really. Outriding my claim the other day was pretty special, though, because I do a lot of work for Sally or Elizabeth Metcalf, and Bella's she's a tough little mare, and we weren't expecting her to win over the 1,000 last Saturday, so that was pretty awesome.
Yeah. So,
just quickly too, with that Corinthian run, Mel, the conditions that night were absolutely horrific. Obviously you coped with it okay, but they called the meeting off after that first race at Cranbourne, and I was actually going to go up that night, look at the weather and said, I'm staying home in the dry. And I watched it live here on TV, and you could see the rain absolutely pelting down. How was it out there riding in that?
Freezing cold. And honestly, my thoughts walking out of the jockey room were, I hope they can't see through my silks. But it was different, that's for sure, because we don't usually get rain at the picnics, so it was definitely a different experience.
I remember you, Danny, saying to me that when you came back, your boots were full of water, and you reckon you must have carried an extra kilo or so in your boots with that water.
Yeah, I don't know how heavy Mel weighed in, but I know most of us weighed in at least between 1 and 2 kilos heavier than what we went out.
Wow.
2 kilos, yeah.
Yeah, my boots took 2 or 3 days to dry out, and the amount of nugget and leather that I had to put back into them to make them healthy again was pretty evident. But look, if you can imagine driving in your car in torrential rain with your windscreen wipers going flat out, take your windscreen wipers away from it, throw some mud at it and drive at 60 k's an hour and tell me how good you see. And
crazy.
they're the conditions that you're dealing with when you're out riding. And that's funny for everybody who complains about the poor visibility and those sorts of things. It's another level. You go out there. I think most of us had 2 to 3 pairs of goggles on. I think I had a visor on as well that night. And upon leaving, the stewards actually said to me, the trainer asked me, he said, "Why didn't you go for that run?" And I said, "I did, but I couldn't find it. I couldn't see." And the run was going quicker than what my horse was too at the time, so it makes it a bit tricky to get through. And upon leaving, the stewards called me in and they said, "Why were you attempting to go through that gap?" And I said, "Well, I thought I was going to get there." And they said, "In those conditions, you really shouldn't be trying to go through small holes." So I got an off-the-cuff reprimand for trying to chase a gap that the stewards thought was too small. So it's different, and it's definitely a unique experience winter racing. I can't say I missed it that much.
You can only imagine what must be in the horses' heads as well, running around in that.
Well, throw a handful of mud at your head and see how much you enjoy it. It's another horses racing in winter. It's a pretty tough gig. I mean, it's tough getting clods at any time of year, but winter when they're full of water and it's cold, and it's not a pleasant feeling.
All right, we've only got a handful of minutes left, lovely lady. So go for it, Danny. Give Mel her 12 in 12.
Okay, Miss Mel. Where's trip home from the races?
That would have to be Healesville last year. You were with me the day that my mare passed away. Yeah.
Sorry, I just realised that as I asked it. I've just got them written down. Favourite band?
Oh, favourite band? Foo Fighters.
Good choice. Who? Beer, wine, cider, or spirits?
All of the above.
Favourite food?
Chocolate.
Best spray?
Oh. I haven't really copped a really bad one at the races yet. So I think I've been pretty lucky there, but it's been a few from some trainers over the years.
Who gives out the best one?
Hands down, Jimmy Smith in Adelaide. But he's also been one of my biggest supporters over the years. So, got a lot of respect for him.
Fair enough. Favourite horse?
Oh, horse that I've ridden race day or
anyone?
Just in general? Anyone? Oh, look, that would have to be my old horse that's currently in my paddock. His race name was Our Hazard. I actually got him off of Jimmy about nearly 16 years ago. So he's the love of my life.
Hello, Zoe.
Say hi. Zoe's cold and bored, so she's come up to see me. Who do you hate being beaten by?
Oh, I think we can all agree on that one. Sean Cooper.
Poor Sean, he's going to get a complex after this. We've given him shit every week so far. We might have to get him on to defend himself soon.
Well, can you just let him win the first at Yay?
That's only because you've got a vested interest in it.
Absolutely. Who's your AFL team, Mel?
I'm going to cop a lot of shit for this, but I actually don't follow football.
Oh, thank God it wasn't Richmond again. Or Pies.
Mel's not welcome on the show ever again.
Don't be like that. At least it's not another Richmond. At least she's not.
No, I was a basketballer growing up. I never got into the football.
Yep.
Now, I said before we come into this show, Mel, I've got a Christmas present for you.
Okay.
And I think Danny might appreciate this as well. And you two keep talking. I've just got to go and get it. Hang on.
I have nothing to do with this, Mel, so I've got no idea what he's up to here.
I'm a little bit worried.
So how many did you end up with for the weekend, Mel?
4. They're all actually they're all a reasonable chance, I think. So I'm not disappointed at all. The one in the maiden was a late entry. He was supposed to be going to Druin. So, but when that got called off John Gilligan decided that he was going to accept for this weekend instead. So that was fortunate on my behalf. And then obviously I've got Rely on Bella backing up from last week, same as Leachman, both trained by Elizabeth Metcalf. Leachman, I think, stepping up to the 2100, it's going to be a nice race for him. And then I've got Dustin Darren for Bobby Beecroft in the 0 to 55 1300. First person who ever gave me a race ride, so I'm excited to ride for them again.
Now, Mel, there's a few ladies that are going to be watching this who their hearts are going to be racing right now. Do you know who this is?
I don't think I can see who it is properly. It sort of looks
like... Do you know who it is, Danny?
It's a Hemsworth.
It is. It is
Chris. Is it Chris Hemsworth? It is
Chris Hemsworth. Now, we know that you're a single lady. Chris is a good friend of mine, and he said he wanted to come on the show tonight. I said, sure, you can gate crash it at the end. He told me he's very low maintenance. He doesn't say a lot. Obviously, he doesn't eat much either. Would you be interested in going on a date with him?
Well, he sounds like the perfect match for me, so yeah, why not?
Okay.
You can come on the next car trip.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Put him in the front. I dare you to turn up.
Drive on the way home and we can both drink.
I will drop this around at your house, Mel. I dare you to turn up at Yay with this on your front seat.
Oh, God.
I dare you to do it. You'll do it?
I'll drive. We're on.
And I want a video.
Coming with me this week.
Someone be at the gate. We'll work it out. And when you drive in and check in at the front gate, we want to see a video of Chris in the front seat.
Okay.
We'll have a Hemsworth road trip.
Yeah, sounds like a plan.
Are you going to go together, are you? Or
probably.
Oh, well, okay. Well, obviously you'll have to.
I don't know, we'll work it out.
Swap seats down the road or something to get Chris in the front.
Are you prepared to sweat it out with me, Danny, this weekend?
Oh, come on. It's not like it's not been done before.
Yeah, no, I just feel bad making you do
it.
All right. Thank you. Thank you so much, ladies. Thank you for being such a good sport, Mel. We appreciate it. And I forgot to say at the start of the show, but I'll say it at the end. This show is proudly brought to you by Picnic Bet. Download the app today. And, of course, what do we do, ladies? We gamble responsibly. And very special thank you to Chris for dropping in. See you, Chris. Thank you.
See you, Chris.
Problem is, when he's around here, I don't see my wife much. So we'll have to sort something out there. Good luck on the weekend, ladies. As I said, apart from race 1, you can do whatever you want.
Thanks, Paul.